Back here in Ashburton on the pegged bedded slate job, and we're about halfway there now. We're just approaching halfway there anyway. We've gone from size 11 at the bottom in length slate. We're currently putting on 9s, and we've got the changeover course around about here where we're going to be going 9s and then 8s, and then there's about 12 courses of 8s I believe until we get onto 7s, and then we're going to be finishing in 7s. So the changeovers take a little bit of time, but just to give you a bit of perspective of how this works. So when you've got a stud wall like this, one of the areas of concern normally is the heat from the inside of the building and the cold from the outside of the building meeting on the back of the slate. And if you ever looked in a slate roof that doesn't have a membrane or any insulation in there, or torching for that matter, the backs of the slates get really condensed. And because it doesn't really absorb anything slate, it's got a really low absorption rate, it kind of settles on the back of the slate and then just runs. You can end up with sort of damaged battens and damaged rafters, and if it really builds up on certain conditions, it can drip, basically cause problems. As we're bedding them on, we're just ensuring that we've got a pretty dry mix that's well whisked, and we're aiming for around about 15mm beds. And the reason that we're aiming for 15mm beds is because ultimately that's what was there before. So we're trying to get it as close to the original as we possibly can. So we've just got an airline mortar here, and before you start commenting on my putty knife, this is putty mortar. So, and I'm just going to fill the perp a bit on the side of these, just so that we know there's not going to be any sort of areas where water's going to track in and get trapped, and it makes it easier to finish as well. When we start tooling this off, it will just be nicer to remove excess mortar. We're aiming for 15mm beds, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm overloading the 15mm here so that I can squidge it down, which really compresses the slate on. And I want to ensure that the whole back of the slate has a bit of mortar on it, trying to ensure that your side lap from each corresponding course over the perp, and when you're lapping on the side of the slate here, is at least half the width of the margin. So we've got 2.5-inch margins on these 9-inch slates, which gives us a 4-inch head lap. We're aiming for 1.25 inches as a minimum. To be honest, with this particular technique, it wouldn't really matter if we did it all with straight perps. It's not going to leak. It would still be a rendered wall with mostly slate covering it. However, to make it look as appropriate as possible, and just to make it more waterproof as well, we're going with the rule of thumb, which is excessive. So because they're peg hung, we haven't got to worry about a nail hole. If it was non-bedded and they were nailed in the center of the slate here rather than in the top, your line of creep goes like this. So your first point of your first problem area is the nail hole. Normally there's a couple that you'll see that are pushing it where we're trying to use the maximum amount of slate that we can without having to cut any. Oak pegged, hanging from riven oak lath on an air lime mortar. We dry lay each course, put the soakers on, and then bed the course on, tidy it all up a bit before the end of the day, give it all a mist. Appropriate time when it starts sort of carbonating a bit more down the bottom where we started, we're going to come back and strike it off. So you'll see more slate, which will look nicer, and it will provide a bit of drip as well. That's where we're at.